first off, I don't know if it'll catch on the audio, but of course, as soon as I go to decide, hey, I'm gonna film a video, somebody starts mowing their lawn. And before I really even get into this video, I want to say that doing ASMR has really highlighted how annoying certain aspects of suburbia are, especially in relationship to the maintenance of lawns. Because for as much as our culture idealizes suburbia as a space, there's a lot of problems with it. And one of them is that no matter, I guess the irony of like acting like it's very peaceful, when in reality, because of the fact that the lawns have to be maintained all the time, every day of the week there's somebody somewhere mowing their lawn, weeding with a weed whacker, using that like blower engine, and it's just so crazy, completely unnecessary. I really, really dislike it. Anyway, I hope that the lawnmower in the background doesn't really disrupt this video. So today I'm actually eating way earlier than I normally do. I regularly do not eat until about 10:30. But I've been up a little earlier, and I guess I was actually excited to eat. So yesterday I went to Latte Market, which I talked about a little on my Instagram. And Latte Market has a Korean French bakery called Tous les Jours. And so today I have this breakfast, and it's got cherries, parsley, an egg. This is a curry croquette, and this is a coffee, some kind of a coffee bun. So that's for breakfast. I don't really have anything specific that I wanted to get into, but I figured I would use it as an update and also to kind of talk about some of the things that people may have been experiencing. So first off, something to talk about is that there's obviously so much going on in the world right now, and a lot of it is really stressful if you're paying attention. If you care about people, if you care about the planet, it's really unpleasant. Which is actually putting it lightly, like unrealistically lightly. So I want to say, for everybody, no matter what it is that you do in the world, if you're not feeling like you have the same amount of energy to do it, let that be. There's so much pressure from everyone to keep going or to keep doing the same thing, but that's really dehumanizing. And for as much as we may be used to how we work or how we make or consume content, those rhythms, they have to be disrupted. And sometimes when people are going through things, as we all are, as a society, it's really important that everyone knows that it's fine if you can't produce the same way, if you're not as upbeat, if you're feeling more tired, if you just don't feel like doing the same things, if they're not making you happy the same way, it's okay to be with that. I personally like to be really consistent with my content, but there's so many different things to do, and I'm like the nucleus in the middle of all of these projects, you know. At the end of the day, I am human. also makes me think of like how YouTube started as a place for people to upload. I think it might have even been like dating videos. So it was kind of like a place where people could just upload videos about themselves. And then it became, so much bigger than that. The same way that the internet kind of changed in the .com era. And so it's like, you have YouTube series and TV shows, almost like it's a replacement for TV. It's people's careers as YouTubers. So much, on both sides, like the feeling that you need to keep up with content, the feeling that you need to keep posting content. But it really used to just be a way for people to share videos of themselves, and there's no expectation that people upload a certain time. And I think that's really important for us to remember. I think that social media in general has become consumed with the market pressures, and it stopped being a place for people to just share and connect, and it became so much more pressured. There's so much performance and output expected, and that's really unhealthy. This is egg with turmeric and seasoned salt. And if you see my Instagram, you may know that I'm plant-based. I much prefer that term. I'm not a strict vegan at all. For me, it's more about what's sustainable and also honoring my indigeneity and a lot of the problems that exist with like animal rights in agriculture, on the one hand also exist with human rights in agriculture in terms of like farm workers and things like that, and also have to do with the industrial scale and the really just inhumane society and culture of capitalism, which is not how indigenous cultures relate to any animals that they may use their eggs or take their meat or something like that. But anyway, these eggs are locally farmed. I've actually visited the farm myself to make sure that I could see how the eggs or how the chickens were kept. Like what is their little home like? Do they have a bunch of room? Are they healthy? Is it clean? That's how I know, like, if I'm gonna actually eat the eggs. If not, if I couldn't find something like that, I wouldn't, because I really don't trust. Like, if you go to the store and these people are like, oh, they're farm raised or they're free range, and it's not actually like a good situation for the birds. It's always funny when you can hear it, like my stomach. Something that I was thinking about this morning, because I've already talked to a couple of my friends, is being yourself, being authentic. how difficult and complex that actually is. Because when we are raised, we have other people's ideas put into us. Curry croquette. That's not like a good or bad thing. I mean, it can be such an issue depending on whose ideas they are and how healthy those ideas are or aren't. But it has to happen because children don't know things and they receive information from the outside world. And then they grow up and they learn discernment, and then they begin to learn more about themselves. And hopefully this process is not interrupted, but in our society it often is. It's prolonged or delayed, or we spend so much time telling people what is the right and wrong way to be. So there are a lot of people who don't even know how to be themselves, because we don't even necessarily know who we are after so many years of hiding or performing, masking, trying to fit in. So, what can happen if you really are in a process of being yourself is that you have to be willing to risk things. Relationships. You have to love yourself so much that you would rather be yourself and risk being alone than keep relationships where you're not really comfortable being authentic. And that's hard. I've gone through, I'm not going to say breakups sometimes. This is just a tip. That's something that I did and then heard people talking about it and just realized that people don't talk about this enough. But sometimes in life, as you grow and you change, sometimes in your relationships, you grow apart. Sometimes you just grow differently. Sometimes what you need to do is distance yourself from somebody. Sometimes you have to cut somebody off. But sometimes you can just talk to them and restructure the nature of your relationship. I've had to do that. I've talked to friends who they're going through that. Because when we are not being authentically ourselves, if we don't know ourselves yet, we end up in relationships with people who aren't actually a good match for us, or we have dynamics in our relationship that stress us out, don't nurture us, don't fulfill us. And this may also include a relationship to work, to family, and take on roles that you don't actually want to fill. So hopefully one day you realize I don't really want to do this, or this is not who I am. And sometimes we know that on the inside, but we don't let other people see it, or we don't say anything about it. We don't want to make a change because we're scared of, like, if I let this out, if I honor my truth, if I say something, then this person's not going to be my friend anymore, or I feel like I won't be with this person anymore, they won't like me, or I don't know who I would be, or how my whole life would have to change. And it's really scary. But it's really important to do that in life. Because if you don't, you will spend so much of your life performing and not living. And you will feel like nobody really knows you. You will feel disconnected from people because they never have the chance to connect to the real you. You won't be able to feel your relationships or derive joy from the things that you do because they're not really you. And after you've become so used to being a certain type of person, or also you have lots of other people who are like, think they know you, you know? It may be scary to maybe worry about disappointing them or losing them or something. But you can't lose people who are meant to be with you, and also authentic people value your authenticity. If you are around somebody and you find yourself coming into your authenticity and being willing to take off the mask, and they go, I don't really like you anymore. They never actually liked you. And that's okay. Authentic people will understand that process of change. They understand that you're constantly showing up because they do the same thing. They understand that you're always changing. And they'll think you're brave because they understand it. But if you've never gone through this process at all, if you're coming into the point where you've got to do it for the first time, it may feel like coming out of that shell will make your whole world fall apart because everything has been built on this idea of who you are. Just trying to change the focus. So I just want to say that, like, if that's where you are, if that's what you're experiencing, or if deep down that's what you're afraid of, you know that phrase, if something if something can be destroyed by the truth, it should be. That's always true. It's always true. has a lot of scary parts in it. And you can't always avoid them because they're not bad. Like they say, face the fear and do it anyway. This is a coffee bun I've never had before. So I'm going to see what's inside. Air. And if you see this like coffee cream, I might. It's also important to do that because that's kind of the only way you'll find out who your real friends and family are. The people who will stick with you through difficult times. I'm an introvert, so one of the things that means for me is that I don't care to have a lot of friends. I don't keep around people who I only see, like, to go out with, or you see them at parties. I don't find a lot of value in relationships that aren't deep. I totally understand if other people do, because you get intellectual stimulation, social stimulation, the fun, the engagement. I totally get it. I just get that elsewhere. But the people who would stick by you in difficult times, who work to understand you when, or outside of how much you fit in, or how comfortable your feelings are, how easygoing you are. I think that's another thing, is that a lot of us, especially the more feminine people, have, and I say that very broadly, I mean that, I don't mean men or women, I mean people who have maybe a more feminine personality, are so socialized to be easygoing. And I think that's a tacit manipulation, because the more feminine somebody is, again, feminine does not mean womanly, it doesn't mean girly, it means feminine. The more feminine a person is, the more sensitive they are. And it's the sensitive people of the world who know how to keep it compassionate, who look out for others, who speak out about injustice because they feel the pain of wrongdoing, of unfairness. They feel the pain of other people suffering, and they want to stand up for that. They cry out for others. They cry out at mistreatment, right? And if we take all the sensitive people of the world and we tell them, just be easygoing, just tolerate things more, don't complain so much, what are we doing? Right? We take all the softness and the justice from the world. If it's the sensitive people who know how to speak up and identify that injustice, that indelicacy, that unfairness, and we silence them, and we make them tolerate extra pain, extra mistreatment, disrespect, disregard. It's toxicity. It's important that we make space in the world for feeling more deeply. This is good. There's a crumb on the bottom that tastes a little bit like there's molasses in it. It's important to talk about femininity as non-gendered. And I don't just mean as in femininity doesn't belong to men or women. I also mean that feminine doesn't have to be your gender in order for femininity to relate to you, to be relevant to you, because every person has femininity about them. For every person, there is a space in their humanity where they are sensitive, receptive, soft, and we shame people from childhood for having that, sometimes because their sensitivity is inconvenient, because it threatens the status quo. It threatens the power structures of like a family structure. It alerts people to needs that they have been detached from. It can also happen to children because especially young boys are being raised to be men in a toxic patriarchy. So we tell them don't cry, don't complain, don't have feelings, don't appear sensitive. But again, it's not about gender, it's about their humanity. I'm kind of full. Especially because I don't eat this early. But I did get up earlier than usual. I think I can make it. If I was really full, I would definitely just stop and just finish it later. It's mostly because I've been drinking all this tea. So, especially because it's cancer season, I want to say the part of being authentic. Means honoring the parts of you that are sensitive, that say, I don't like this, don't treat me this way. The parts of you that say this hurts, the parts of you that say I have needs, the parts of you that say I have dreams and desires, the parts of you that say I'm tired, I'm not strong enough, the parts of you that say I'm angry because I'm hurt, the parts of you that say I can't hold it in anymore. And to people who may be new to exploring the concept of femininity, to, again, don't get wrapped up in the patriarchal, gendered concept of femininity, which is like very much this how much you can appeal to men and wearing dresses. That's not what it's about. But I would say also become aware of what we call the dark feminine, which is not to say that it's bad. I would say it's more like the night to the day, right? And the dark feminine can be very destructive, can be very much like, I hate this, I don't like it, I want to destroy this thing that is an enemy to me, because the dark feminine is very protective. The dark feminine is very protective of herself, quote unquote. I say that, I'm not meaning a person, but it's very protective of itself. It's very protective of those who are vulnerable. It's very protective of children. The dark feminine is like when people say, if somebody did, this horrible thing to my kid, I would really want to seriously harm them, right? You know what I'm talking about? That's a very dark feminine thing. Or like, if you touch, my family, I'll burn down your whole village. But that's kind of where that comes from. And also the sense of like, when we talk about the feminine in relationship to archetypal gender, when we talk about the feminine as a mother, as a birther, as having a womb, we would call that the womb can house and create new life, but it also cleanses and empties itself out with blood. It's both sides. It's complex. It has its own balanced polarity, duality, and there's a lot there. So if you are somebody who has been disconnected from your own femininity, understand that it doesn't mean being girly. It means empowering the parts of you that are soft enough to be hurt. They're soft enough to be receptive. They're soft enough to feel. And because they're soft enough, they can tell you things about the world. They can give you intuition and insight about people, their vibes. And the only way you can make that useful is if you empower that part of you with a voice and you say, this is how I feel and this is what I want to do about it. Whether that means going after something or pushing something away. It could be either way. It could be a lot of things. It could be, I want to do something different with my life and be more creative. I don't want to just take orders. Or I don't want to stick with one track. I want to be a little bit more loose and fluid. That's what the femininity is about. So, yeah. This is good, but I don't know if I would get it again. I really like this bakery, and one of the things I like about it is that they have a lot of savory pastries. They're not all sweet. They have one that's like tomato and something. They had one that was like mushroom and cheese that I haven't had yet. It's really good. Looking anyway. This is also not too sweet, which I love, but it's a lot of bread. I say that like it's a bad thing, but I did just eat like 2 conchas in the past 42 or 36 hours. 48? Yeah. But that's different. I was having a craving for conchas. I know it's pretty common, maybe kind of played out, but I wonder if I maybe made more like ASMR cafe style videos for my channel. That's all for today. Maybe this conversation is useful. If it resonates, take it with you, and if not, you can just leave it. Maybe this was at least a fun video. The lawnmower lasted the whole